If you haven't seen the previous video in this series, follow the link on your screen or click the link in the description or pinned comment below.
Comcast.
Oh wait, I thought you said DC Comics.
Before the war.
Narration.
Sinning something you do, Deus Ex Machina cliche excellent at CinemaSins.
I'm no space genius, but would the moon still look like it had just exploded seconds ago if it was actually exploded 50 years ago? I kind of feel like it wouldn't.
We know you aren't a space genius. That's where the whole "there is no gravity in space" meme comes from. Speaking of gravity, that is precisely what's holding the pieces of the moon there. Gravity. Whatever caused the moon to be destroyed wasn't powerful enough to overcome that gravity. As such, the pieces of the moon are now caught in the gravity well of both the larger chunk of the moon and the Earth, suspending them where they are. Considering the distance of the moon in comparison to the Earth, those smaller pieces will eventually fall back to the moon and fuse together again in a few billion years anyway.
This is an awesome shot, no question, but these two famous Washington, D.C. landmarks are not so tall nor so sturdy that they would still be this upright while every trace of all the buildings around them, like the fucking Smithsonian buildings, are completely buried or gone. But cool shot, bro.
Why the hell not? The Smithsonian building is only 91 feet tall while the Washington Monument is 555 feet tall. The monument is 6 times taller, meaning even if the surrounding area was 300 feet underground, it would still have as many inches as I do.
We built the Tet.
You named it after the Vietnamese New Year?
Tetrahedron, you moron. It's a triangular pyramid with 4 faces,
which convert Earth's seawater into fusion energy.
More fun with fusion.
Here's another one of those nonsensical sins where the scene was only included so there's context for a later sin. This didn't mean anything and is not something wrong with Oblivion.
Remnants of the Scavenger army continue to...
Well, this story certainly needs quite a bit of setup, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially for people like you that need their handheld when they watch movies. Hey, I haven't said that in a while.
It's like after Inception, everybody had to use that noise in their movie.
Sinning? Bwam!
Jack Harper, Tech 49.
2 composers are credited in this movie, and both of them are trying to combine to form Hans Zimmer.
Why is that even a bad thing? And I'm giving you 2 sins here for sinning this film's incredible soundtrack. I still listen to M83 to this day! To this day! To this day! You just sit here and you don't know what I'm talking about?
Jack Harper, Tech 49.
Jack Harper, Tech 49, never stops to wonder about the other 48 techs, and why his call sign is so high despite his utter lack of evidence of other techs.
This was explained in the narration that you were skipping over and bitching about. There was a memory wipe and Jack was told he and Vika are the last on the planet and will join everyone else on the Tet after they complete their mission in a few weeks.
March 14th, 2077. 5 years since a mandatory memory wipe. Victoria and I were assigned together. In 2 weeks, our mission here will be finished and we'll join the others.
Hey, be careful out there.
Always am.
No, you're not.
Some might say he's a maverick, am I right? Oscar-winning actress playing this role tells us this character is probably evil from the moment she appears.
So, winning an Oscar means you're evil?
Yeah.
How about that?
You know, I read about this game. It was played right here.
In 2017, the Super Bowl is going to be played in Houston, and therefore the Houston Texans would also have to win that Super Bowl in order to stamp 2017 World Champions onto the stadium. And I'm sorry, Houston, that's just not going to happen. Also, they're in an area that was once New York, so this is not where the Super Bowl is being played in 2017.
You made this video in 2014, which was after it was announced that Houston would be the host for the 2017 Super Bowl, where in reality, my Patriots came back and eternally embarrassed the Falcons. 28-3, never forget. The problem with this, though, is that Houston wasn't announced as the host for the Super Bowl until May 21st, 2013. This movie began filming in March 2012 and finished July 2012. So, even if they were reflecting our reality, which they obviously aren't, they had no way of knowing Houston would be the real-life location, and in their reality, assumed it would be New York.
Ball is snapped. QB fumbles. Disaster.
I see this was a Tony Romo game then, right?
No, it was a Matt Ryan game, but close.
Oh, so I guess it's not a Tony Romo game then, huh?
No, it was a Tom Brady game, but close.
A tricky dog just happens to walk into the area right after we saw scavengers lurking inside the stadium. False alarm is false.
Thanks for just repeating what the movie is telling us, Jer. This is precisely what we need on YouTube. A bored and disinterested narrator telling us what we see.
That drone is out there somewhere.
Without a beacon, it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Oh, Drone 172 has a beacon, or else you wouldn't have been able to see where it crash landed earlier in the movie. You just want to get Tom Cruise on a motorcycle.
That last bit might be true, but it's shown in the film that Vika has to relay beacons to the bubble ship in order for Jack to be able to find them. What they see on the map is the general area. The scavs sabotaged Drone 172, meaning the beacon was unable to be relayed to the bubble ship.
Awesome collapsible motorcycle is collapsible.
Jeremy sends something he likes cliche.
Tom Cruise is on a motorcycle cliche.
Yeah, you said that in Sin 22.
Sir, located 172, sinkhole.
Or a former building, since there are letters etched in stone that make this much more than a sinkhole.
That doesn't change the fact that it's currently a sinkhole. Do you think Vika cares that it used to be a building? Damn, dude, you make it seem like they don't realize they're on a ruined Earth and that somehow this hole being a former building is information that needs to be relayed in this context.
Jack falls for the old ridiculously large globe posing as a drone routine.
CinemaSins pulls out the old, this movie is so good I gotta bullshit my way to 15 minutes routine.
Jack gets all cocky before he's actually out of danger, signaling his certain failure at escape.
Dude, at this point, you're just telling us what is happening on screen. I thought you sin narration.
It's not time for Jack to learn what the audience already knows, that the scavengers are actually humans, so the drone shows up to kick that revelation to a later part of the script.
At this point in the film, the audience has no reason to believe the scavs are actually humans. They don't move like humans or look like humans, and we have no reason to disbelieve Jack and Vika. The only people that knew the scavs were people were those imaginary people that knew Graves was Grindelwald. In other words, they don't exist.
The f*** did these cables come from? If they're not here right now, movie over.
You mean these cables? These ones right here?
Movie makes a big deal out of his bike getting stolen, but then ignores it and just shows him returning in his ship at roughly the same sundown time of day.
Later in the film, we are shown Vika has the capability to remotely control the bubble ship and send it to and from Jack's location. Do I need to explain what happened here, or are we good?
Random book lying by his feet turns out to have great significance to his moral dilemmas.
That's kind of what books do, Jer. You wouldn't know that, though, because you sin reading.
Underwater sex.
Jealousy.
Tower 49, you have put the whole operation at risk.
I know science fiction authority figures are supposed to be assholes, but I guess I'm tired of hearing them in movies blame people for things that are 100% not their fault.
100%? Jack failed to find 172 and kill the scavs that would take the core. Look, I know that the scavs are mainly to blame here, but Sally explicitly states that their job is to protect those rigs. Considering she's an extraterrestrial AI, I can't say her logic isn't sound.
Are you and Jack an effective team?
The repetition of this question should long ago have tipped off Vika that something was not right with the Tet people.
Jeremy is pretending he hasn't seen the ending of this movie, which is weird considering he already mentioned he knows the scavs are humans. In the film's climax, it's revealed that the Tet's personality is based on interactions the real Jack and Victoria had with the real Sally. This was done so that the brainwashing done to these clones would be more effective.
Yes, the tower viewer on the Empire State Building. We saw it at the beginning of the movie. Maybe you could have saved that for this scene rather than beating us over the head with it.
Showing something twice is beating us over the head in CinemaSins land.
So does Jack go off-comm every single time he comes here? Because it looks like a ton of visits have gone into creating this paradise. And while Vika did act like this wasn't new behavior, she definitely wasn't acting like someone who has seen this 100 times.
Jeremy answers himself cliche.
Have your tech stand down.
Ted has to talk to the communications officer, who has to relay messages back to the technician, and vice versa. There seems to be no real reason that the Tet and the technician can't talk to one another, other than it's really convenient that the technician can just disobey orders without any real repercussions.
First of all, that last part had nothing to do with the first. You just conflated the ability to communicate with Jack disobeying orders. He'd do that even if he were in contact with the Tet directly. But the film has shown that because the Tet is orbiting Earth, it loses signal when it's on the other side. This means the Tet's ability to communicate with the tower is based on its direct line of sight with that tower. So, this tower behaves in the way a cell phone tower would, relaying a signal to someone on the ground, which is precisely why it's so high in the sky. Remember when you said Tower of Nope earlier?
Towers of Nope.
I'm ordering you to pull out.
Vika orders Jack to pull out.
Jeremy advocates for shooting up the club.
Jack, the Tet's offline.
There's only one Tet, so that there's an entire half of each day when the authorities can't tell what Jack is doing. Wouldn't any being with half a brain build two Tets so that this wasn't a problem? That thing is f***ing huge. You're telling me they couldn't build 2 smaller ones from the same materials and have 24/7 coverage of all of Earth?
You fundamentally misunderstood this movie. The Tet is the artificial intelligence. You are asking it to build another one of itself, and clearly it doesn't have the capability to do that, considering how primitive the drones are in comparison and its need to clone humans to do certain tasks.
Movie's CryoTube requires hardly any nudity.
That's a weird sin, considering you got upset at Alien for too much nudity.
Where are we? I'm Victoria. And this is Jack.
She asked where are we, not who are we.
You mean, who are you? Besides, she answers her question just in a more thorough manner, explaining to someone who is clearly disoriented what happened to them. It's called giving context.
Also, because Victoria answers this question wrong, for no reason, it leads to a moment where Julia is able to restrain herself from saying, I know your name is Victoria, and that's Jack, and Jack and I are married, and we are all on the same mission, remember? Instead, Julia now instinctively knows not to say too much because it's clear Victoria doesn't recognize her.
Congratulations, you can follow what is happening on screen. Now, why is this something wrong with this movie?
I need to know what happened. You need to know what happened.
Because this is somehow easier than simply saying, dude, you were on my ship with me as a crewmate. And also, we used to fuck.
Remember that whole context thing? Yeah, this is what happens when you skip over parts of the movie to make banal points like these. There was a scene at the dinner table where Jack explains to Julia that 60 years have passed and that the Earth had been invaded. This reveals to Julia that Jack and Vika are brainwashed and they need real evidence to show them what happened. Vika mistrusts Julia and thinks she's an enemy, so that's why this scene is here. They wouldn't believe her even if she told them.
This makes for a cool transition, which is why movies do this shit all the time, but a violent gun butt to the temple would kill a person, like 2/5 of the time in real life.
So what you're saying is this is one of the 3 out of 5 times? Meaning it's more probable that he wouldn't die from this?
And how can a man die better?
Unseen captor recites famous literary passage before showing himself cliche. Also, how does Morgan Freeman know exactly which poem Jack had connected with in that f***ing book?
Literally, his very next line is him saying he'd been watching Jack.
And how can a man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods? I've been watching you, Jack. You're curious. What are you looking for in those books?
These two are f***ing married, but this chick waits forever to finally start spilling the truth to Jack, allowing the movie to have a proper runtime.
Dude, this chick just woke up after 60 years of cryosleep to find her entire crew had been killed, the Earth is dead, and her husband has no memory of her and is involved with another woman. She is clearly disoriented by what is going on. And to top it off, she does tell him they're married in the scene you're talking over. You're complaining about nothing.
I'm your wife.
Man, there are only a handful of women alive right now, and Jack keeps lucking into relationships with absolute knockout babes.
What even is this? An attractive man has an attractive wife? She was the original Jack's wife before all this started. And with as crazy and domineering as Vika is, I wouldn't call that luck, homie.
No, we are not an effective team.
Vika is a dicka to Jacka.
You were the dicka that called this lucka.
Sci-fi movie copies the flying ships through the canyon firefight from every sci-fi movie ever.
Even Alien? And Terminator? And RoboCop? And Blade Runner? And Ghost in the Shell? And
you always want to avoid a crash, but this ejection system does not seem to increase the passenger's odds of survival by more than 1 or 2% at the most.
And Moon? And Ex Machina? And Inception? And Back to the Future? And, I kind of got carried away there. This ejection system is essentially the same as a fighter jet. Eject the seat and deploy a parachute. Why are we complaining about this again?
Shit, we need to go through the Clones flashback too?
And Interstellar? And, no, I'm just kidding. The reason they show Jack 5-2's flashback is twofold. It tells us that he also dreams of Julia and sets up the payoff at the end of the movie. It's important the audience understands this Jack is the same as the Jack we've been following. Otherwise, his appearance at the end doesn't have the same emotional weight.
Seriously? You didn't know you were shot? You've been watching this fight the whole time. It's not like you could have missed the gun that shot right at you.
First of all, this is a scene manipulation. By saying the whole time, Jeremy makes it seem like a ton of time has passed since the gunshot. She notices literally 6 movie seconds after the gun was fired, which tells me that these events were probably happening at the same time. She was just involved in a plane crash only to see 2 of her husbands fighting each other. Shock is the only right answer here.
Isn't this cabin back in the original Jack's quadrant? Wouldn't that be a radiation zone to clone Vika? And shouldn't she be panicking that her technician just flew with a strange woman intentionally into the radiation zone?
Maybe she did. We're not being shown her perspective right now, nor would it make any sense considering Jack 4-9 doesn't have communication equipment capable of communicating with Vika 5-2. Outside of the bubble ship, of course, which we have already been shown Jack can shut off.
And the Tet sent troop ships down. The doors opened and out you came. Astronaut Jack Harper.
And none of these thousands of Jack Harpers were in any way confused at seeing so many of themselves running around.
An incredibly stupid point. The movie told you earlier that this Jack had a memory wipe. If it's possible for the Tet to wipe a clone's memory, it isn't a stretch to suggest those Jack Harpers were also brainwashed or even blank slates. You know, like the movie says.
The doors opened, and out you came, astronaut Jack Harper. Thousands of you, memory wiped, programmed to kill. No soul, no humanity.
Also, memory wiping must have gotten really sloppy after Phase 1. They had an intern do the memory wiping for Phase 2.
But if you're aware they were mind wiped, why did the previous sins still make it into this video?
No soul, no humanity.
That's racist.
No, that's also another piece of evidence that the Jack Harpers were blank slates, which should have sent the previous 2 sins back to the drafts.
Phase 2 was drones, repairmen. 50 years of watching those hydro rigs suck our planet dry.
Let's talk about the Tet's plan. They're here to suck all of the water out of Earth. Great. But it doesn't seem like Jack, Victoria, and their clones are in any way necessary. They perform maintenance on the drones and defend the rigs, but they can't possibly defend the rigs 24/7, which makes them useless during the offline hours. On the maintenance end, how do they not have the technology to fix these drones with little worker robots? This is a race that has mastered interstellar travel and technologies beyond our capabilities, but they need humans for maintenance?
The drones are the 24/7 defense for the rigs. The clones provide maintenance on those drones so they can defend those rigs. The drones only need maintenance because the scavs have been shooting them down. Why build robots when you have an infinite supply of cloned humans that have been keeping this system running relatively smoothly for the past 60 years? Also, this system is something the tech came up with during the course of its invasion of Earth. They specifically say the clones were made first. Hell, the only reason the Tet fails is because humanity has been fighting back and managed to turn one of the clones, something they'd been failing at for decades.
50 years of watching those hydro rigs suck our planet dry.
50 years? Man, hydro rigs are horribly inefficient.
The Earth has an estimated 326 quintillion gallons of water. In other words, 50 years is way too fast.
By the way, what have all these people been eating the whole time? There aren't much animals or vegetation still around, and we're told a lot of people starved after the invasion, so what's the food source?
There's an answer, but one the film isn't telling us. Just because you don't have that information doesn't mean it's a problem with this film, because this movie isn't about how scavs survive. I mean, how did the Tet make clones? Where did it get the material to do that? Why are they all grown men and women already? That's something far more important to the plot, but you didn't sin it. You simply accepted that. You suspended your disbelief. This is the problem I have with YouTube movie critics. You people arbitrarily choose what to accept and what not to accept, and then pass that bullshit off as legit criticism. Movies are art. They are meant to be appreciated, not nitpicked to death. If you didn't like the story the film told, that's fair enough. But to bitch about the story the film didn't tell is where I draw the line.
Falling down while running away from danger cliché.
Oh, you mean like how people do in real life?
Is there a particular reason why Julia agrees to go back in the sleep chamber? She doesn't know what Jack is planning. Tet knows she's awake. She never asks one question as to why this is necessary.
Dude, this was her plan. How did you miss that scene?
Also, can the aliens not hear what's going on inside the bubble ships they created for Jack and his clones to fly? They're perpetrating the biggest ruse in the history of the universe, and they didn't take the trouble to put microphones inside these ships?
Well, that's a stupid question, considering we've already seen Jack communicate with Vika while flying this ship. Meaning, yes, there are mics in the ship, Jeremy, Jesus. The reason you're asking this is because you are under the assumption that Tet cares that he's listening to the flight recorder. It doesn't.
Wait just a goddamn minute. The entire purpose of keeping the human clones alive was to repair the drones that protect the water-sucking machines. But this footage clearly shows that Tet has thousands of spare drones just hanging around the f***ing wall waiting for something to do.
It's almost like those ones are there to protect the Tet or something.
I want Julia to live. I want our species to survive.
God knows why this matters to an alien race bent on stealing water from Earth and has been killing humans the whole movie. But, okay, we'll let you in.
Dude, it doesn't. The Tet wants Julia's genetic material. It's become clear that Jack works better with Julia, and Jack even confirms this by saying it to gain entry to the Tet in this scene, and is why she lets him in. The Tet captured Victoria and Jack back in 2017, so it assumed that they were a couple. This is why it set up the fiction that those two were married. Julia was ejected, so the Tet was unaware she was his real wife. This is why the AI keeps asking them, are they an effective team?
Ooh, a Tet inside a Tet. Tetception.
Furthering the misconception of what Inception means.
You, Sally.
Honestly, Sally was never that much of a villain to blow the PG-13 allowance on her.
You mean the AI that is literally responsible for the deaths of 99% of all humans? That AI? If you can't say fuck you to her, who can you say it to?
And I wonder if you see me when you look at her.
It's revealed at the end that this is Tech 5-2 Jack speaking, but he should have no idea that there's a child.
Jeremy doesn't know how the past tense works.
Also, bullshit cloning plot element ensures the two heroes get to both experience a tragic death and stay together forever.
It's called eating your cake and baking another one.
That's impossible. Who are you?
My name is Jeff.
Great video as always, my brother. Have always enjoyed your highly intelligent, insightful, and witty content, especially coming from a black YouTuber. By the way, do you have any thoughts on the Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer? My really quick and dirty thoughts on that trailer is that I kind of didn't like the trailer, to be honest. It came across as if they were going to kill T'Challa, which is kind of a huge no-no for me, considering T'Challa is extremely important to Marvel, just Marvel Comics as a, entity. So to kill him off, especially so quickly, is insane to me. He's just a great fucking character, and he's, a black superhero, the premier black superhero. So to just, off him so quickly is kind of a slap in the face to people like me who have been a fan of this character since forever. So that's really what I think of the trailer. And the movie might be good, but, just going by the trailer, I'm just kind of annoyed. I also thought Namor looked pretty cool. Hello, B-Man. I love your vids. They're funny and a good series to watch when I'm bored. I'd like to ask, what do you think is the best movie you've seen and your favorite one? Favorite being a movie you love and would be excited or wanting to see it any chance you get. So my favorite movie is Blade Runner. And that's the film that really got me into science fiction as a genre. So anything science fiction, I love it because of that film. And that's the reason why I made this video, Oblivion. I love this movie Oblivion, and I never would have watched it had I not been a fan of science fiction, and I owe that to Blade Runner. Hey Birdman, I love your videos and streams. I just wanted to ask, as someone who is going to hopefully soon become a voice actor, what tips can you potentially offer to get started, or what type of equipment would you recommend? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Well, this is a question I get asked a lot, and my answer is relatively the same each time, and it's basically this. You probably have the equipment that you need already. And by that, I mean, if you have a Yeti microphone or something even cheaper than that, or hell, even the phone that's in your pocket, an iPhone or an Android, they all have apps that allow you to record your voice. The main thing you need is room treatment, and that's one thing most people neglect. You can really make any microphone sound fantastic. You don't even have to use this microphone. This microphone I'm talking to you on is a $3,000 microphone. You don't need that. What you need is to control your space and make sure you don't have those sound reflections, and you can make a Yeti microphone, or hell, even your iPhone, sound really good. So you probably have the equipment you already need. Other than that, though, practice. Practice reading the newspaper, practice reading a book. And I mean, like, recording yourself reading these things, and try to do it in different voices and try to make it sound funny. You can try to sound like this, or you can make it sound like this, or you can really sound like this. It all depends. You just do whatever you feel comfortable with, practice it and get better at it, and shoot for the stars, man. Record your demo and then send it to casting directors or agencies, and the magic might happen for you. Riddle me this, Birdman. If cab drivers are cabbies, then what are bus drivers? Well, obviously they're busty. Hey.
Aha! Aha!
Here's another versus question. Halo Infinite Master Chief versus Mass Effect Trilogy Commander Shepard. Oh my god, that is a hell of a matchup. But I'm gonna give the slight edge to Commander Shepard. The reason being is Shepard can like explode you with their mind. You know what I mean? So like they have biotics as well as guns. So they're as good with guns as Master Chief is, but they can also force telekinesis his ass off a building or something, like, you know. So you gotta give the very slight edge to Commander Shepard. That's who I'm going with. But that's a really good matchup. That's a great question. As always, guys, thank you so much to the people who left super thanks. I truly appreciate it. If you would like me to read something that you said or ask me a question, which these are turning into impromptu Q&As with the Birdman, go ahead and use the super thanks function, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.